Welcome to Just Men, a life-changing program that resonates hope as well as encouragement. The program that gives you information and inspiration for the glory of God. I'm your host, Jeff Tate, and thank you for joining Just Men. On today's program, we have a very special guest. It's his first time being on Just Men. Please welcome DeShawn Oravetz. DeShawn, welcome to Just Men.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Man, it's a tremendous blessing for you to be on our program, and I know that there's a lot to your life, but we really want to highlight some of those things, particularly as it relates to just your upbringing and all the things that you're doing in Nashville.
Absolutely.
So before we get started, share a quick bio on DeShawn.
Well, I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Then I really kind of grew up kind of in Knoxville, Tennessee. Moved down there with my mother more towards middle school. Went to high school in Knoxville. And my mother met one of your good friends, Rodney Jones, which had a pretty big impact on my life growing up. And then I just recently graduated from Middle Tennessee State University in Murfreesboro and studied audio engineering there. And here in Nashville now, involved with music and do what I love.
Wow, that's beautiful. Let's go behind the scene on this passion and this inspiration behind music. Where did it come from?
It's kind of funny. I didn't realize it at the time, but a lot of my inspiration for music really came from my uncle on my mother's side. He's been big into music his whole life, and he's really into classic rock. And a lot of the things that he liked as I was a little kid, kind of maybe some more of the theatrical things in that time of classic rock kind of really inspired me, I guess, as a kid seeing it. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't know it at the time, but those things kind of led me to want to create music. I didn't realize that I wanted to create music. You know, I've always had a creative mind. I wanted to be an architect and, you know, kind of design things. And then later in my high school career, I decided, okay, I want to create music. I wanted to produce. And as I got to school, you know, started engineering and mixing and being involved in audio and, you know, and being around Nashville is really, the city itself has really kind of inspired me, and the creativity that's here, not just with the music that's created, but the environment and the atmosphere has really inspired me as well.
Wow, that's beautiful. I know one of your words that you shared offset is creativity. Share a little bit about what does that mean, and how do you bring that to life?
Yeah, I believe creativity is what you make it. You know, creativity, it's an individual word, but it's also universal in the sense that, like I said, it's what you make it. So it can be simple as being simple and being determined and being whatever it is you want to do. I look at it as that is creativity. Whether it's, you know, if it's this table, whether it's the way you wear your clothes, whether it's the way you design something. I think everything in life really is creativity in a sense of, if that kind of makes sense. And, you know, because everything that you can do there's an aspect of creativity, not just the art sense of it, but you know, in a life sense, it is creativity. I think life, is a synonym for life is creativity.
Yeah.
So
how would you bring that into your genre, into your production? I mean, you're doing this thing from the ground up in a one-stop type of shop.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
It's interesting. When I was in school, my sophomore year in college, I was in a survey of the recording industry type class, you know, just kind of overseeing everything. And it just kind of hit me that the industry was in a state that was just kind of not good. You know, there's a lot of control. There's a lot of factors that really down people from being creative or having the freedom. And that was a big element when I wanted to start this organization, to give artists, to give creative people, to give those individuals that wanted to create something, that wanted to get their music out there, that wanted to strive to, you know, whatever level they wanted to be at, to provide them with this organization that didn't have these controls and gave them the element of freedom to get their music out, and, you know, whatever level they wanted to be. If they wanted to be with my organization and have me represent them, or if they wanted to go on and, you know, be with a major record label or whatever it may be, I decided, you know, to have this organization, and, you know, from marketing to music production to the manufacturing to, you know, getting things in social media and everything, and just being creative. Like, you know, we were talking about the word creative, you know, really just creating it, you know, hearing out the artist, and sometimes it wasn't an artist, maybe it's an artist manager. Just that hearing out that individual and helping them get from step one to their final step wherever they wanted to be.
Wow, I know one of the things that I'm always intrigued by, and I know the effects of not having that creativity, particularly when you're in some level of bondage or you're bound, you're shackled. And when you're shackled, it's hard to be empowered. It's hard to have that creativity or the creative juices to move beyond into your vision or into your mission or your purpose. And so one of the things that I'm constantly telling people about in terms of the creativity is, like you said, it's a part of who they are. And many times we say, well, because you're not like me, then what you're presenting or what you're bringing to the table is not creative. You know, we have this model, this cookie cutter model in terms of creativity, but your organization is going to present a model that is unlike that. I mean, how you plan to get that to be effective?
When I approach people and people ask me about the organization and everything, and I say organization because I'm in a revamping stage of what I'm doing. It was formerly Imperium Music Group, and I guess I actually haven't told anybody, but I believe the name for the new organization is going to be Sky Creative Entertainment Group, focusing more on elements of not just music but everything in general. But I tell people that it was more so just as much as a new business as it was a new business model. Coming from the aspect of, like I said, the industry was just so, you know, controlling and everything, and the aspect of having all these things that can successfully provide, you know, marketing and music production. And it's interesting because in these early stages, and probably for a while, it's one individual. I'm a one-man show, and it's kind of a lot to ask somebody to say, hey, I can actually handle this, you know, the tasks that are thrown at me. So, but I think it comes from, you know, life in general, the things that I've been through, and the determination and the discipline that I've had, and the effort that I've taken to develop this organization to, you know, to have a foundation. And I believe, you know, everything that I've done, my resume shows, you know, that I can take this and, you know, get you here and everything. So it's definitely a challenge, you know, and but it takes a lot of trust for someone when I'm presenting, you know, what I want to do or what they need, and laying it out there and trying to accomplish all that they want. So. Wow.
Is there any significance behind the name? I know your name changed, and so.
Exactly.
Sure.
Well, Imperium Music Group, it was, Imperium is actually Latin for empire. So that was, it was weird how it came up, you know, obviously, you know, I wanted to have this group of individuals and an organization that was just powerful and, you know, made difference and made change amongst music, and not just music, but, you know, in the world. And I'm just really the name change now is more so just so we can get out of the aspect of just music, but more so all creativity. Everything from project management to, you know, whether it's with a music artist or it's with a firm or whatever it be, whatever it may be. Because I'm finding myself, as I've graduated from college, I'm still working with some of the artists that are with the organization and clients that I've made through the organization, but I'm developing new clients that aren't necessarily represented by the organization, but you know, want these different services and everything. So just from a business standpoint, I think it's more business smart to approach with a different aspect, so, or a different name and a different overall look as Sky Creative Entertainment Group.
Yeah, wow, that's beautiful. I know one of the things that I always find interesting in your genre and your line of work is how a company would separate the artist from the gift or the talent. And how do you balance that?
Yeah.
So how would your organization balance that, or how have you in your personal way been able to balance that?
It's like I said, you know, about the element of freedom, of like that's a very key element. And I think there's a fine line of where you can give the artist or the individual freedom, but then there's certain things in the industry and in today's media and today's market, certain things have to be certain ways. And I think with creativity, you can get those points across while letting the individuals still be themselves and still have that sense of whatever they want to do, they can do, but let's be able to shape that and mold that into a presentable artist or presentable project or presentable product that can be successful and, you know, eventually get the artist or the individual or product to where it wants to be. So.
Yeah. How much is spent in the mentoring aspect of it and the development of that gift?
It is. There's a lot, you know, and that's what in the stages of changing from where I wanted the organization to be and the name change and where I think the revamping stages, I think a lot of it has to do with the mentoring because I would just, you know, I think I've always been a helping soul my whole life. You know, I always like to help people, whether it's, you know, at a job or whether it's to say, hey, you know, can you help me with this or do this? And I think a lot of my time that I was spending with these artists or with everything kind of took away from that other business aspects, but there was a lot of time where I was, you know, developing, planning out stuff for all, you know, for their benefit, but absolutely free to them. So from a business standpoint, I wanted to take more of advantage of being able to get myself out there to take advantage from a business standpoint to, you know, people that actually need this mentoring and need this development and need this management to, you know, get them from point A to point B from a more business savvy standpoint, you know, so.
Wow, that's beautiful. What are some of the challenges you face in your organization and you even in a personal level as well as professional level?
A personal level challenges. I mean, I think as humans, we face challenges every day, and I think that from a business standpoint, in the industry that I'm in, it's so dynamic. You know, one thing today might not be the same tomorrow. This technology is coming out tomorrow. It's, you know, today it might be fine. Tomorrow there's something new. Or there's a new way that, you know, you have to get this product or this artist to be promoted in this form and, you know, in this media and this certain way. It's just so dynamic. It's always constantly changing. So a big challenge is staying up on what's coming up, what's changing, you know, who's new, who do you need to know to, you know, the resources. It's like entertainment is not like any other industry. It's you know, it's crazy. It really is. It's a madhouse in some sense. So you have to be able to stay humble and, you know, keep your head on and keep your feet on the ground.
Yeah. So how do you do that? How do you maintain your sense of what I call equanimity, balance, your sense of sanity, your sense of composure, your sense of humility? How do you do that?
I think over the more recent years, starting back when we moved to Tennessee, and my mom met my dad, Rodney Jones. I think it's funny because I think he really had a big impact on, you know, how I was really disciplined. Not that there was, it's kind of funny because it was a sense of discipline when, you know, I moved into it was new, you know, my actual dad wasn't in my life, and then I had this father figure, and so I was kind of intimidated, you know, but that intimidation was kind of like this sense of discipline, you know, along with my faith and everything. It was this sense of self-discipline that I've always had, always been, you know, being on my own sometimes when me and my mom were on our own. I was always, you know, self-disciplined, you know, cooking by myself, doing this, maybe having to be home by myself sometimes, and always just, you know, being very, you know, I was a strong individual getting things done, and it stuck with me through now, along with my faith, to get through days where it's like, oh, you know, is this really working? Well, I'm just gonna have patience and see, you know, what's gonna work today. You know, there's always tomorrow, and then move on. You know, and I've developed an attitude that's like, you know, just not laid back, but, you know, I just am I used to stress out a lot, and now I'm just kind of able to have no worries and, you know, and believe in my faith and just be, you know, settle where I am.
Yeah, I know many say let go, let God in terms of really having a faith, and faith not necessarily defined in terms of, sometimes we can have faith in faith in terms of that, but no understanding that there is a greater power behind faith, that there is a destiny and a providence of our life, and that providence is in the hand of someone who is sovereign who can bring everything according to his will and in order that work out for your good, even though, as the other guest talked about, is that many times our challenges becomes the very thing that causes us to triumph,
Yeah.
To become our greatest
Absolutely.
victories. And so that's beautiful. You know, as you were speaking, and I thought about the term of trust, and particularly in your organization and what you're going into, how significant and how important it is to have trust in this, this genre.
It's huge. You know, you want to be able to trust who you're working with, and especially on the creative side of things, as the industry, which I guess you would say maybe the standard. You know, there's really not those people that are really close to you that are in your camp. There's a lot of trust, but then the people that are actually controlling that camp and getting them to, you know, wherever, there can be a lot of tension and not a lot of trust going. So a big factor with what I want to do, you know, in make sure that my organization has is that aspect of trust. And like I said, especially right now, as one individual saying that I can handle all this and saying that I can do this and saying that I'm this creative individual that can, you know, do this and do that, I'm asking a lot from a person to have a lot of trust. So with that, I'm hoping that they do have trust, and then once everything starts going, that they see that, you know, it's worth it, and there's a lot there with, you know, my creative ability and everything that's there.
Wow, that's beautiful. I know my wife could tell me and always tell me that trust comes with time. It comes with the relationship. Obviously, it may not be there immediately or innately, but it's developed over time. What has been, you talk about your business model, which really is different. It's going to be somewhat different, but what have you found that you learned at school during your education process and training and conditioning and setting the platform for you to have this creativity mindset? What have you learned to be different than what you was prepared for through education? Education prepared you for this, but then when you got in the real world, you find some things don't line up exactly the way you learned in school.
Honestly, everything so far has really kind of just, I don't know if it's because I've been mentally prepared or if it's just like I've taken the time, like with my organization, and not just my organization, but life in general, to say, okay, I think this is going to happen, or I know I can expect this, or looking ahead. And, you know, I can honestly say that nothing so far has just said, wow, like, why is this, you know, why is this happening like this, or I wasn't expecting that, you know, and I don't know if that's a good thing or if it's a bad thing, but and I think that goes back to my self-discipline. I was always in school and everything. Even when I was I was really shy when I was little, and then as I grew up, I kind of grew out of that. But I had the group. I was friends with everybody. I was friends with the popular kids, or, you know, everyone kind of put labels on everybody and everything, and I kind of got along with everybody. And I think that with the group of people that I was always with, I kind of saw how everybody, you know, worked, whether it was, you know, being in church on Sundays, or the people that I was hanging out with that, you know, knew nothing about God or whatever. I think over my 22-year lifespan already, I think I've seen a lot, and I think I'm digesting everything to a point that where the knowledge that I'm gaining, obviously I want to learn every day. And that's kind of an aspect of my life that I just love. I'm always wanting to learn something new and just move and, you know, keep going and going. And I think everything that I've taken in has allowed me to be a knowledgeable 22-year-old that understands the virtues of life, and, you know, what needs to be done, what doesn't need to be done. Just the basic stuff, because I think a lot with my generation, there's a lot of clouds. There's a lot of, you know, it's not very clear to some of the younger people what exactly is right, and, you know, there's a lot of contradiction and everything. So, you know, I've been on the side to see what's happening, and then being able to really take away from that the good, and seeing the bad, and, you know, I think it's helped me to be the disciplined person I am.
Wow, that's beautiful. You know, you moved me into the next segment of my dialogue with you in terms of preparing planning and performing. Many times people, especially young men like yourself, there's not a lot going into the planning aspect of it and the preparation.
Yep.
They really want to perform. Everything is about the performance, about the
Exactly.
performance. You know, it's like on Sunday morning, you know, whether it's in service or whether it's on a football field or whatever, you know, all the highlights is always focused on the performance.
Yep.
But we know that you win the game away from the court, away from the field, away from
Exactly.
that. You win that in that preparation time, that
Exactly.
planning stage. Talk about your perspective on that and how that's been vital even to your development.
I like to think of, I always, if my close friends and everyone I know, I always bring everything back to music. But I think of things in the sense of planning I think of things, whatever I'm doing, I try to think of it as in, like, how would this work in this industry, or how would this work in life this way? How would this, you know, work in music? You know, obviously I'm thinking of music. And I think that prepping for whatever it is highly important. Planning is highly important. Without a roadmap, you're setting yourself up for, maybe it could be a mistake, it could be complete failure. And I think if you set yourself up for planning, if you're using prepping and planning, then you're just enabling yourself to be more successful. For instance, if, you know, for school, you know, it's a simple concept. If you're reading the subjects that your teacher said, hey, you know, read chapters 1 and 2, and, you know, we're going to talk about it tomorrow. Then, you know, planning the study and planning, you know, there's a test on Tuesday, there's a party on Monday night. Well, don't go to the party Monday. You know, there's, you know, planning these simple things that, you know, can go from school, you know, you think about in that aspect, to preparing for an album. You know, you got to plan, you got to prep. These people need to be here then. This people got to have this song done by this date. This person needs to be here then. You know, getting the pre-production, getting the post-production, all that type of stuff is very, very a big process. And when you do that, when you actually go through and do all the individual steps that are in that planning process, whatever it may be in, then you're able to see the full picture and be able to understand everything more thoroughly. You know, you think about it in studying or in music, whatever it may be, you just think about that planning, looking at each individual step. And then when you see when you're supposed to perform, you see how all those different planning steps are in that performance. And then at the end of the day, it's successful.
Wow, that's beautiful. Help me as a young man to understand how the young people, your generation, thinks, particularly, and what can we do as men to help guide young men like yourself and those that have kind of lost their way? What can we do to be more effective in our abilities to help you? You talk about hypocrisy and some of the things where they're gray areas and they don't know. There's no absolutes. It's either there's nothing absolutely, you know, black or white. It's either gray or shades of grays and whatever. And so as a man, what can we do to help become the impetus to change, to help young people find their way and to discover truth, and more significantly, to find themselves?
I think the way my generation and the way today society is, I think leading by example and seeing those people that are actually doing what they're, so you tell someone this is how you have to do it, this is how you do it, and then whatever they want is going to happen. But if they don't, I think there's too many people nowadays that are saying, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and they kind of lose sight of those people that are taking the right steps and doing things as they're told, and taking the right prepping and planning, you know, doing the right stages. I think they're losing sight of those people, and then they're getting around the wrong group of people that there's not those individuals that are getting out of that group to lead by example. And I feel like all my life that I've, whether it be physically, mentally, I think I've always been a leader, and I always want to be a leader in whatever it is I do. I'm, you know, very competitive in you know, from sports. I played basketball in high school and everything. I wasn't the greatest athlete, wasn't the best, player on the team or anything, but I was a captain, and I felt if I led by example, by my schoolwork, by my faith, by my leadership and everything, I felt like I could help other individuals, live up to their potential, and be better athletes or be better students. The same thing goes through everything my current job, developing my organization, everything, trying to lead by example. And I think leading by example and having more individuals lead by example and showing that roadmap that they've built, and having young people see that and know that if they do have that roadmap, they'll be successful, and they'll get out of those gray skies.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I like what you said about modeling that. I mean, it's one of the things that, particularly as men or as young men, they don't see often model what it is to be a man, what it is to be responsible, what it is to have faith, and not only just in your own abilities, but obviously my faith obviously is in God, and in terms of just what He has been to me. What have you seen growing up, particularly in the men that have been in your life, starting with your dad and your stepfather? What have you seen that you can grab hold to that really say, wow, that's a mantle that I can carry and really move me in to the realm of success because I've seen it modeled? It's not the rhetoric, it's not what I heard, but it's what I've seen. What would you?
Well, it would be my stepfather. He's always giving. He's always giving, always helping out, and I think, and he seems to never really kind of have a care or a worry, and it's just, I think the aspect of being able to help, and like I said, I love to help, and I think being able to give back to whoever it may be, family or someone you may not even know, and being able to help them, I think that aspect of this helping and giving, I think that's what I can take away, definitely from him.
Wow, that's beautiful. That is, and there's so much, and we got to have you back on. I mean, it's awesome for you to be on a program and at 22 years of age, and I wish I had that type of alertness and consciousness about life and consciousness about the direction I was going. I had to get knocked on the head so many times to get me in line, but life has been my greatest teacher, and it continues to be our greatest teacher. And so I just want to encourage you in your faith and in your industry and your walk, because you are tackling a lot of challenges there, but I know that you're able because the gift is inside of you. And so continue to move forward. Last word of encouragement. What word?
Stay determined, be disciplined. That's all it takes. You can do anything you want if you're just determined. You set that goal, have that vision, have that passion, be disciplined with it.
Wow, man, that is awesome. Stay focused. Wow, man, great job. Awesome, man. You did good, man.